Let's see. I don't know what's new, but I decided, I don't know. I got the bug. I want to hang out, talk to you guys, maybe do a real stream, real brief stream, but a real stream nonetheless. Real stream fun. Let's go do something, you know? So I'm excited. I didn't get my fill of MAGA debates earlier on today. MAGA debates, um, talking to Strait of Hormuz again, maybe a little geopolitics. CNN's Fareed Zakaria did a sort of quick talk. I don't know if you guys know who Fareed Zakaria is. Very famous political scientist. Studied at Harvard, some of the best in the business. But yeah, he had some fighting words for him. And so, um, yeah, with the Strait of Hormuz and all the stuff that's going on right now in you know in Iran, a lot of people are very worried. A lot of people are very worried. You know, we saw a window in the Ukrainian war. This is just one of the sort of things people should be thinking about, talking about just a little bit. You know, we have a Vladimir Putin who he himself has sort of voiced a desire to end the war, right? He said that Russia doesn't really have an interest in still fighting. It makes sense. Russia doesn't have unlimited resources. They're economically constrained. Um, they potentially have some partnerships around the world with countries like China and Mongolia and North Korea that could potentially be very fruitful for them. And so just looking at it in sort of voting terms, if you're saying, well, how deep should our conflicts go? Without Cold War rhetoric that we're stopping the spread of communism, a lot of people maybe would say, hey, putting MAGA aside and sort of Trump's start to his presidency, I myself maybe would have voted that Donald Trump himself could have done something to intervene in this conflict or this war. And this maybe is something that could have actualized. It could have actualized saying, hey, well, look, the United States interest is that, you know, we have to fix our economic problems in free liberal states, and that's a constraint we can't really get out of. And at the same time, there's really no desire or strategic purpose to us having a conflict if there doesn't need to be. And so you could just say something very stupid like that and leave it there, right? That seems like it would have been sufficient. And yet with the Easter ceasefire, Easter armistice days in Iran and the Ukraine, nothing came of it. Nothing came of it. And this is just really odd. We see 80% of evangelical Protestants voting for Donald Trump. Now his approval rating is claimed at 40%. I would suggest it's probably a lot lower. There's probably got to be a lot of people who, if you gave them the actual headlines, would say, there's no way I can actually support this president right now. Donald Trump's shown that he is a person who is more than willing to lie, connive, cheat, steal, basically trying to do anything that he could, in order to fulfill election promises. This policy platform, this is basically what MAGA was saying, there's a lot of different places in America politics hasn't reached. The Tea Party didn't do it. Libertarian ideology didn't do it. The sort of last generation of war hawk nationalism didn't do it. And so Donald Trump can come in and say, I've been right there with you. My fellow Americans, I've been right there with you. And we've been doing it the right way. We've been doing it on television. We've been doing it on business. We've been doing it the right way for so long now. And so people were hopeful. That's kind of the thing that I think people wanted to get to. Hey, what's up, B. Smith? Good to see you. That's the thing people wanted to get to was, seeing, MAGA voters wanted to see what having a sort of man of the people would actually achieve them. Some people never believed it. A lot of people actually thought that it was BS the entire time. A lot of people thought that it was not that great the entire time. And yeah. And so, if we look at actually sort of the history and the reality of things that actually grounded the United States or something like this, Um, People like Kamala Harris, who progressive Democrats like me support and have supported, would have said that, yeah, if you're not supporting, you may not love it from a progressive perspective, but if you're not building small businesses, you're not going to be successful. You're ultimately not connecting the value chains of the United States, so you're never going to find more efficient paths forward. And quite frankly, you're going to introduce inefficient, costly, energy expensive levers and stuff like this. Would I rather gain muscles or gain, I don't know what that is, muscles or brains? Both. I think that if you work out at the gym, you can make one thing I used to do is I would either skip dinner, go read something and write for a little bit. Total Adonis track, bro. Total Sigma male, bro stuff. My brother Tristan used to tell me that all the time I have to, be reading, I have to be working on myself, and I can't be too emotional because that's something effeminate men do. No, but go to the gym, do a little weight training, experiment with full body splits is what I tell people, because if you go and try to be something that you are not, then you're going to get a full body split is a source of truth for that. And so, yeah, go work out, get enough weights in, get enough stuff. Hey, thanks, Roman. I'm going to come through and say hi to chat in just a minute here. I do a lot of audience talk. I do a lot of questions. Everyone, if you guys want to wave hi to Ari, Ari's here. So what up? Yeah, I just started this stream. And so, yeah, and they don't usually get that much bigger than this. So if you guys want to like this stream, that's cool. But yeah, full body split, read, write a little bit. Our brains and our bodies can get bored. Our brains and bodies like exploring ideas. They also like that cardio. They like being a little bit healthy. There's a lot of stuff that people can say and do there. So both. Let's check the poll. I'll check the poll. 15 votes so far. It is 15 votes so far. And 53%. Now 50% said Trump is fine, I'd reckon. 50% of you guys say no way, Jose. Okay, great job. Great job, folks. Dirk Diggs turns out a PDF protector Trump the taco. Turns out he's a PDF protect Trump the taco. Yeah, Donald Trump's Epstein investigations just never came through, and so saying that, there is just what an investigation is supposed to be, whether it's Epstein or whether it's like ICE enforcement or something like this, is that you have documentation, paper trail, and you basically have enough to make the judge happy, keep the judge happy. And then you can also, when you refer the case to prosecution, you have the same things there. And so with Epstein, the failure to launch outside of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's initial arrest, a lot of people said, well, this was a failure by the FBI, failure to investigate what looked like it could be a conspiracy, and just based on documentation, appeared that there were conspiratorial factors that are just in the documents. And so for a lot of people, that says, yeah, victims' rights should have sort of stipulated that you don't just put the person in jail for what they did in New York and Florida, but you should have actually followed the paper trail and seen what else you could have uncovered. Shut up and do a face reveal. I don't know what that means. No, do you do call-ins? I'm not doing call-ins tonight. I'm not on a StreamYard or Restream. We'll do it some night. If you guys like the YouTube Shorts formats where people have like the overlay and stuff like that, I'll do that sometimes. Yeah, I love having people on. I do panels all the time on other people's channels and stuff, but not tonight. Hey, what's up, Wiki Feet Beaver? Heart. Yeah, me too. Good to see everyone. Hey, I just want to say to everyone out there, thank you so much for being here today. What else? You are a beautiful person. You're appreciated, not just by me, but by the universe. And also for the good things and the bad things, the universe both apologizes and respectfully asks that you find gratitude within yourself for those things. So thank you, everyone. Someone said the N-word. Yeah, someone was spelling the N-word. I'm not a fan. I already knew how to spell that word. Not that I'm proud of it. Not that I need to use it ever, but I didn't know how to spell it. So not necessarily a progressive or educational choice, I'd say. Robin Williams was I loved Good Will Hunting, Patch Adams, those types of films. Good Morning. What was it? Was it Good Morning Vietnam? Yeah, he's a really funny guy. For younger people, if you've never seen Robin Williams, he's fun to check out, right? If you guys dip out of the stream, want to do it now, dip out. If you check out some of his old acting bits, some of his old stand-up, you'd see why he was so popular and famous. He could go a mile a minute. He was very funny, very entertaining. Hey, what's up? We got DeFreak in the house. Good to see you again. This is DeFreak's second time checking into a DucksWise stream. Not that you need to know where DeFreak's whereabouts are, but I'll just say, I'll put on my sexy secretary glasses and say, hey, what's up, DeFreak? And so when you guys see DeFreak in chat, from my perspective, I think it's worth showing him a little bit of that gratitude and respect, right? Those are my two sort of words for the day. All right, I'm going to take off the sexy secretary glasses for now. We are an 18 plus channel, guys. And so, yeah, whatever. You guys are allowed to speak freely. I tend to say no racism, no violence, TOS stuff. But yeah, we're an 18 plus channel. No harassing other members and stuff like that. But other than that, you can do basically almost anything here. Do I agree with Israel? I sort of agree with Israel. M Israel Chai. M Kai Israel. M Chai Israel. Yeah, Israel has a right to defend itself. But when you willingly go into an urban combat scenario, I'll be saying this for the next 12 months because justice is required to be served. When you willingly go into a urban combat scenario, you are making the choice to kill a lot of people. And that's what Israel did. So are you a liberal? I support liberalism. I support liberalism, typically socially fairly libertarian or progressive, whichever one you want to say. Yeah. And yeah, I worked in business. I have a lot of problems with the free market. So if you guys ever want to ask me about that, feel free. I'm not a socialist by any means though, right? My complaints are kind of like punk rock capitalism, I would say. Not at all like Donald Trump, but a little punk rock capitalism. A little California, a little what do you build in California, if that makes sense to anyone, Are you the type of person to return a VHS without rewinding it? Oh my God, I've probably not been guilty of that too many times, but I would. I have common sense about just, if you ask me to rewind it, okay, so it only takes a couple seconds. I can just put it on, takes a minute. I don't have to watch it rewinding. If the tape breaks, I'll just say, hey, the tape broke while I was rewinding it. What do I do? My VHS tear, but I do have a little responsibility. I had jobs, very lucky. I had jobs since I was 15, 16 years old, that kind of stuff. So I do rewind VHS tapes. I wonder why that won't release the Epstein files. Epstein files or files with Epstein isn't to keep Trump seems good. Seems good, I think. How do you do that? Donald Trump and Melania are both on top of the Epstein files now. So I think since they've made themselves the center of attention, okay, you're on top of the Epstein files. Some people are going to say that. Looks like you guys didn't want the investigation, and there you go. You look like Dan Blazarian. Yeah, Dan Blazarian gets a bunch of chicks, I think. Allegedly, it's been alleged. There's photographic evidence of him with lots of pretty ladies, and he also makes a lot of money. So if I had those two things, I would be closer to Dan Blazarian, probably. Everybody remember to answer the poll. Plenty of pictures with Donald Trump with a little blah, 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 sitting on his lap in the private airplanes and parties with no parents around. Yeah, people would obviously want to see what level of engagement Donald Trump had on Epstein Island. Anytime you're around, if you are a public figure and you're around sex workers and you're going to make some argument that you don't know the circumstance of that, that's pretty odd. So I don't know if that's true or false, but, if it's true, it's true. Wow. Hey, what's up, Raimu? Yeah, gratitude, humility, all this stuff. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Good to see everyone. We got Jonathan Grant. I don't know who's still here, but Jonathan Grant, JB, Jonathan Grant, Hogs, Baffleworth. If you were to use 3 to 4 cans of the darkest spray tan, you could steal wallets. That'd be pretty cool. Heck yeah, dude. Fraziel, Crust, people like Trump too. William Pa, you stick on crap that's thrown out there for the public and it means nothing. I don't think I try not to do that. I try not to do that, right? Complaining about something's not going to make it more fundamental. And so for me, my understanding is I try to relate things back to political processes like voting. I try to relate things like political processes like Trump ordered a war, right? That is still a political process, even if it's not the one that you would have liked. So that's the kind of stuff I try to do. I can read. I can read and speak a little bit. I try not to either read or speak when I don't have to. If you guys didn't notice this earlier, I have my sexy. This is my STREM kit. Is the universe gave me sexy secretary glasses. So, boys, chicks, when you guys check into my stream tonight, you guys are welcome to stick around. You see some of the folks leaving already. That just leaves us more space for hopefully 4 or 5 of us to actually talk. All right, my name's Nathan in real life. I go by Duck Online. So that's why I can't read, is because I'm a sexy secretary, as it turns out. Oh, thanks, Texas Proud. Heck yeah, your state's very nice. Your state and your PFP. Texas is a big state, and boy, you fit it all in there. Nice job. As citizens, we work to pay taxes and honestly control nothing. Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a cool point. And we pay taxes, but we do get, free use of roads, stop signs, this kind of stuff. As someone who's easily distracted, and just my own personality, it's not that complex, is like, I like going super in depth on some things. And so if you tell me that you're going to build a road from here to Alaska, from Arizona to Alaska, or Florida to Chicago or something, I'm probably down with that. I'm probably saying that's cool. Hey, what up? Nice to meet you as well there. Oops. Good girls love bad boys. Let's see. Good girls love bad boys, someone says. Hey, cool. I've learned this before as well. This dude sold me Fenty. No, I didn't. I didn't there. But hey, if you guys want to talk about that type of stuff, the Pablo Escobar stuff, I know a little bit about that. Not an expert. I wouldn't claim to be an expert, nor would I want to be, but alas, here we are. Man, heck yeah, you love your state. Cool, that's awesome. I was a big fan of like Austin, Texas, the culture scene and stuff there. Dallas, Fort Worth, Caballeros, what is it, Cowboys or something like that. Cool stuff in Dallas, Fort Worth. We've got border towns. We've got big border towns in Arizona too, and so it's just kind of cool seeing. My perspective, my opinion is in Arizona, it's not a big deal at all, right? My best friend growing up, he had family super far down south, right? And he was a Mexican dude too, right? But his family was in Arizona. And now I also have family that is like as far down south, like literally there's signs on the road in kilometers down where these people that I know live. And yeah, you drive down there and you can go to like Five Guys or something. Like it's no different. That's a good banana for scale. And so when people like John McCain were talking about a border, he was kind of saying, oh, well, these white folk, buff guy military folks should kind of be aware that, there are these, border events happening, and the federal government should be talking to these fellers a little bit more. This was the good old John McCain days. Rest in peace, John McCain, very classic Republican style candidate, very America first in some ways. But America first back then also meant like, well, if I want to talk about like military and security shit, I'm going to talk to military guys about it. You know what? And then someone will be like, hey, John, you got to talk to the lady folks about it too. And then he'd be like, oh yeah, let me go edit my speech and I'll talk to the military lady folks. But I ain't talking to everyone again. And so that's cool. I'm not saying that's optimal, but it's a little better, right? It's at least like, okay, that makes sense. You're having a coherent conversation in the universe. You're probably never going to figure out what to do with it, but that's okay. What do you think about the intergalactic space vampires? Okay, let me put on my my serious bookworm, my studious scientifical glasses here. So if you guys want to see 29YOA's got a great question, intergalactic space vampires. I think when you imagine that space vampires don't care about space except for the fact that they're in it, if that makes sense. I'm personally okay with it. I'm okay with it. I don't think we should judge them for the fact that there's a lot of people not that aware of their surroundings. Now, when it comes to the vampire portion, I am partial to the idea that I don't want someone to suck my blood and turn me into an eternal space vampire. And the fact that they're intergalactic is even more horrifying. So, I guess I'm saying don't be racist is fact number one. Act two is certainly we should have diplomacy with the fellas. And the ladies, of course. Who knows where to start? Maddie Barrow says, that's a dumb comment. The systems we follow were created by us for us. Yeah, those aren't limited government systems, though. Not necessarily, right? And that's sort of the absurdity, is that's part of what a democracy has to do, is find what a limited government is. But it's also not really a limited government if you have overreach by the military. It's not that's the most timely one, because that's what Trump's doing in Iran right now, is military overreach. It's also not a limited government if I were to say something like, oh, okay, well, Microsoft, made $1 billion before we fixed schools in Mississippi. Okay, maybe that's just how the world works in the United States, but I don't have to be happy about it either. So it makes me stressed and I can't breathe. I'm an expert on birds. You know anything about bird law? Bird law came up the other day. I had a debate about bird law, and I had a debate about whether or not God has a butt. Those were my two debates. My friend set me up on those debates, and so I was really thankful. I'm not real good about that kind of setting myself up stuff, but since given my username is Ducks, I would ask you, I was just going to ask you what kind of ducks you've seen in your own life, but I was going to ask if you know anything about migratory patterns around the country. That would be an interesting one to see. How do ducks migrate down from Ottawa or something versus like Vancouver and Alaska? Where are my Arizona ducks from is what I'm trying to get you to be totally honest there. Just out of curiosity, what can you talk about? Anything 18 plus inappropriate. If it involves profanity, that's cool. You can use little dots or put other symbols, and until YouTube gets mad at me, we'll at least do that tonight. And then we can talk politics. Donald Trump, MAGA. Is Trump an all-right feller? We got 56% of you guys saying, no way, Jose. You guys don't think this Trump feller is all right. Back in my day, that would be a pretty bad assessment of a guy. 56% of the townsfolk say, hey, you need to go talk to the preacher and the sheriff, young man. That's not very good if that's what you guys are saying. I think Trump's I would say he's a moron. We sometimes use these words like moron because we don't want to advocate, maybe are the least favorite sports teams we have. We don't want to advocate social violence. We want to remain pro-social and peaceable. And so we say, hey, that guy was an idiot. That guy was a moron. Why? Well, because that guy believes something moronic. He believes something a moron would believe. That makes him a moron. So I think Donald Trump is a moron. Texas, somebody says Texas is a bunch of gay dudes. Hey, that's cool. I support gay dudes. You can be bisexual in Texas as well too. Do you know what that means? It means that you're banging one dude or one chick at one time. You're not getting your lines crossed on yourself. Yeah, and for a lot of folks who can't manage their own life, that sounds like a lot to manage, but in the same way. So shout out to Texas, shout out to the gay flag too. There you go, bud. I'm going to try to keep up with comments and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just kind of walking through some stuff. Allegedly, Texas has the best briskets in America. Cool. I used to love brisket. I eat vegan now. I'll put on these are my sexy vegan glasses if you haven't seen them before. And yeah, I went vegan about 4 or 5 years ago, kind of took a little time. But yeah, I learned how to use a rice cooker, and there's just a lot you can do with it. You can actually put other ingredients in the rice cooker, or if you learn how to cook rice like on a stove or something, most people don't think of like cooking rice with tomatoes or like lentils or something, but you can do that. There's no law against that when you're cooking. The two cooking styles are like, you can get real precise. You can get real precise or learn how once you move stuff over to the pan, it like caramelizes a little bit. Like there's a lot that goes into it, and just get good at rotating yourself in the kitchen. getting the ingredients prepped and into the pan, and then that's it, right? You're moving around the kitchen, the stuff's in the pan. It's very simple, actually. The second pathway forward, of course, is, the vegan route is, like rice cookers, dude. Rice cookers are so sick. Look at my neck, guys. That's a vegan neck, right? It's a vegan neck right there. I'm not going to lie. It was really hard to quit meat. That was one of the ones that took me about a year to wrap my head around, was not having desires and the whatnot for meat and stuff like that. I'm not telling you, but I'm, just from a personal perspective, I was a feller who liked to read about cooking, who liked to do some cooking. I worked in restaurants back in my day. So all kinds of good reasons to eat food, and that's all we're doing here. We're letting that stuff evolve. Jesus loves you. Hey, thank you. Hey, you're lost. You're Novemberism. Okay, good job. Good job, everybody. Oops, what did I do? I broke something. Shit. Trump just following elite's orders. Trump is the elite. Trump told everyone he was a billionaire, and he hired people to make him a billionaire, and he stayed up there. That's all he did. Microsoft is located in Washington. Who cares about Mississippi? Microsoft is located many places, but Washington is a huge state. That's cool. Mississippi, Louisiana. We got Dia looks kind of like the big PFP in chat and stuff like that. I don't know why I'm talking to you like that, but seems like he's the cool guy. Seems like he's the cool guy in the chat and stream, whatever. What am I talking about? I'm talking about anything I want to talk about. No duck knowledge. Texas Proud asked the question. Just go for it. He's doing what he's told. Talk over time is people to act by not conforming. Adults voted for Trump, someone said. I don't know what it... Talk is over. It's time for people to act by not conforming. Yeah. Peaceable protest, civil society. Matty Barrow maybe said the most important thing in chat is that if you can become civically engaged, a lot of people are going to believe that, especially our folks from Texas, Arkansas, many other places. They'll be very proud of you for doing civil disobedience or civil engagement, civil society. But that's actually super true. If there's not stewardship of a civilization or society without respect to Western values, just the right thing to do, where do moral teachings come from? If people don't have metacognition or cognition or meta-ethical sort of suppositions, or they're unwilling to go out and do the work themselves, that's pretty tough. I at least try to be honest on my stream. Not that I'm Milky, please know, I don't know if that person's still here, but feel free to subscribe and come back. But I would say if you know anti-trans stuff on the channel, if you guys say you want to debate trans stuff, I would probably even refer that to saying, what's the scientific basis? And, I've got a question about the science or the sort of the where you might see it. If you guys don't like trans YouTubers or something, cool. That's not my business at all, right? I don't know. You have a trans coworker that you don't like or something. Also, if you want help with it, you can say that, but not really my business. Lots of people have people they don't like. So there you go. I'm scrolling down a little bit. So what's up, everyone? That's how you can ignore the suffering harm. Yeah. Definitely. I think if you're trying to ignore suffering, part of it is not exploring this, not like systems of systems, but it's just, is there a natural description of it? Is there a natural description? Is there something that, a person can relate to or kind of see themselves getting closer to? Veganism is very accessible as a moral thing someone can do, because I grew up and I had pets, and when I saw cows and then I saw some of the cow videos, even in high school, I was like, yeah, that sucks. I was raised Catholic. And so going to soup kitchens and having some sort of weird sense about, this is just how life suffers, whether you're poor or you're a cow in a cage, I didn't have that much emotional maturity or depth to it, right? Or understand the systems. But when I got older, I feel very thankful, even not being that successful of a person in life, whatever. I can say less or more about it, but, I think to me, the sense of sort of valor, I would define, YouTube's banning a message. I don't know why. I think like the sense of like valor and integrity that people have is like, um, is that like, yeah, if you see a being that's suffering and you can be part of the sort of change in order to positively affect or influence your own choices and therefore how the world may be, that's a really good thing to do, right? That's about it. Maybe not even that much, it should be obvious. It should be pretty obvious, the worst suffering a person can imagine, even if it's brief, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want my money or my diet going to that. But that's the same thing, if you start to, and this isn't really bad, right? Here's a funny one because it's a politics channel. Bill Clinton asked Mexico to go build our dishwashers and refrigerators and stuff. And maybe you say, well, I don't really care about dishwashers and refrigerators or all this stuff, but it saved us a bunch of time and money. A lot of these US companies made, millions of dollars on the deals. And it put Mexican dudes into work. But I ended up working with an industrial engineer one day. Cool guy, still remember him fairly vividly to this day. Whatever. Like I would hit him up and, if he was in town or something, I'd get a beer with him or something, whatever. I don't know. I don't care. Like, and so, but he was a dude from Mexico, got an industrial engineering degree because manufacturing degrees and like the sort of mathematical process design stuff got really popular. So one of those weird things where it's like, well, is neoliberalism black and white? Maybe, probably, because there's still winners and losers, but you can always make those stories a little bigger. Why quit meat? Don't fall for it, bro. I don't know. I like fake meat. I also like just not having to think about not feeling good. Whatever. Vegans always like to walk through all like, oh, look at how pretty my metabolism is. But the reality is it's a simpler choice than the other one for me. And so I did that. Hey, shout out again to the mod, Ari George, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, Ari George YouTube. Shout out again to Ari George mod in chat. Good to see you. Thanks so much for all the times you do really great work here. I know it's crazy. And so a terrorist group on underboss. Yes, sir. No anger is no peace. No anger is peace. Yeah, maybe. Hey, thanks, Arcade Pilot. Good to see you again. Stop talking about Trump. I don't know why you would report this stream if you have like if you want me to do like prepared stories, you can say that or something, but stop talking about Trump. Yeah, the deep state sort of like, I don't know what that is. What? Yeah, you want to report the stream for what? voicemod.net. Oh, I'll have to check that link out later. I don't have a way to open it right now on stream. But yeah, if you want to leave it in a comment on another video or something, that'd be cool. And yes, I'm a vegan. Nathan's my real name. I'm going to scroll to the bottom of the chat. Thanks to everyone. Sorry, I don't mean to skip messages here, but yeah, whatever. Trying to respect your guys' time and personhood a little bit. Hey, what's up, Freddie Schwallen? Who are you going to tell us stop talking? Who are you to tell us? Yeah. If you don't like it, leave. It's simple. Yeah. A good question from Turbo Autismo, who got timed out for 10 seconds for saying it. But anyways, just like automatically, basically, maybe. I would say, yeah, wouldn't really be down to get pegged per se. It's not like intuitively, it's not like what I think would be desirable or something like that. I think some people warm up faster to like any form of touch than others, and other people don't. And so it's like, okay, cool. I have that confidence in myself that even with like a beautiful chick, yeah, if you ask, I was the guy hooking up with 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 chicks back in the day. But still, that didn't mean that I was like, first guy to like flip over myself over that type of stuff, whatever, so yeah, so no need to be like disrespectful or whatever, but, that's as much as I would explore the question without context. Hey, what's up, J Clips? Sniffling Blow talking about, hey, somebody asked. If somebody asked, and I don't know if 1999 is your birthday, but that would make you way younger than me. So if you can't handle the heat, brother, I don't know. I got this book here. If you guys want to read it, this is the book straight guys read because they want to learn about, just academic scholarly stuff. It's called Ethical Sleuth. So this is a scholastic book. I found this one at Goodwill. If you guys got Goodwills by you, I was very cat-like. I was very predatorial. I was very much a predator while I was looking for that book, thank goodness, right? And so when I was looking for this one, I found it and I was going to buy it the day I saw it. I was like, oh my God, I fell in love with it. They have actual authors, they have citations. There's, 200,000 copies sold. So, I don't think of books about like sex directly as like being high selling or something. So I kind of fell in love with the cover, all of it, flipped to read a couple pages and then I didn't buy it, right? But I went back to Goodwill, later that week because I'm incredibly poor. And so that's just what some poor people go there to buy stuff. I just go there to, for fun. I can't afford going to shopping at like Nordstrom's anymore. So I go to Goodwill and I saw the book was still there. So I picked it up. I actually went with my mom that day and yeah, it was senior day. So the tags were like half price, I think. I don't know how it works, but I think I paid $1.25 for this really nice book. It's marked as a $30 book or something. I am willing to die to defeat MAGA. Yeah, I think people should be able to, with like a Buddhist middle path, my recommendation would be, okay, so the downside of like sort of this always on mentality of MAGA is people start feeling really strongly about politics that really don't affect change or effect change in any sense. But I think reverting and telling the stories of injustice that happened under MAGA are incredibly important. Under Donald Trump's his office to the presidency, just like a lot of other people. So I think a great alternative is just not accepting rhetoric that makes Donald Trump exceptional. No exceptionalism, no great man theory. He was just an idiot who kind of caught the vote barely, which is the reality of it. And yeah, it was just happened to be the strategy this year, And if you want to say, well, what's the actual truth content? There wasn't any. You had social media and people lying about stuff. And for whatever reason, a bunch of these, psychotic murderous beliefs made their way into politics. People saying that you should hunt down and lasso brown people in the street and lock them in mass detention centers on the taxpayer's dollar because you were too lazy to get a social science degree. You were too lazy to get a math or social science degree or a history degree. So that doesn't make any sense to me. And instead of people saying that doesn't make sense to me, they voted for Donald Trump. And so I'm happy. I'm always super happy to have conversations. But if someone says, well, would you grant me that he's just like any other Republican candidate? No, I'm not, because Donald Trump, before he even got into office, was talking about killing Iranians. He is, what is he like? He's like a murderer, right? He's like some murderer who, his mom his brain stopped working after he started talking about killing Iranians in the 1990s. And then he just spread that message out. There's no real estate majesty. There's really nothing there. Don't be so dramatic. I'm Hing my hand 8 out of the 10 times a day. Yeah, if somebody does have, I don't know what YouTube says, but I'll call it materating. If you're materating or self-auto things 8 times a day, 10 times a day, who knows? That might be classified in the DSM as a sexual addiction. There's probably physiological symptoms and stuff that you recognize yourself in that case too. And so I think there's absolutely, in terms of the health and, the mental wellness factor, cool. But I don't, I would be part of like anti-shame. And if that is a medical issue, then right, that's not my expertise. So I don't have an opinion on it. That's quite it. Yeah. But maybe I'll do a poll one day. I'll see, just do you crank that soldier boy more than 10 times a day? And if so, should I go contact a doctor and we can do a dual stream or something? Is that a photo of Rob Halford behind the ceramic? No, that's granddad. He was an air demon. I wasn't an air demon. I'm not a veteran, so I just put him in there in my dirty depression dishes. I want to talk about valor or something. Yeah. I don't know what the sniffling's about. Who knows? Who knows? All kinds of stuff trying to get itself up. Oh, Nordstrom's or Goodwill. No in between. Yeah. Yeah. I used to like Nordstrom Rack, the Ross. Those stores were fun to go around. I was a little privileged kid, so I would go shopping with my mom and stuff. Not like crazy, but yeah, that stuff was fun. Reselling or something? No, I don't like reselling. I know some people feel like they were forced into it, but it seems like a giant scam, and resellers often do. You're right. You're doing okay, or you're lying about it. Some people do it the right. Like they're obviously I've done deals with good people for basketball cards and stuff, but I'm a collector, right? I collect cards, so I don't think reselling is how the market for like non-fungible assets like collectibles actually works. Hell yeah, brother. Is there a higher level mod? I would like it if there was. Yeah, there's a managing moderator. I don't know if you need it because we don't have any other mods here right now. I think all managing moderator does is let you manage standard moderators as well. But it's mostly, that's a setting for big YouTube streams. It's a setting for big streams. Hey, Jackpots, I'm sorry you sort of feel Juicebox. Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way about what's it called? I'm sorry you feel that way about the system of government. Not in a condescending sense, but in terms of the fact that, yeah, I could see that the office of the president, the executive, the U.S. government's broken people's trust in the United States. I think there should be good reason to have some trust in government just so you're not bothered all the time. Yeah, I do like the United States. America first. America, America. That's what I say to that. If you guys want to go see Deal Looks, comment up there. And I'll check on the poll in just a second here, but there's a Deal Looks comment. There it is for just a second, and there it goes. I would say America, America, right? If something isn't the United States, it doesn't have to be like so identical or super philosophically profundity kind of stuff, whatever. But you guys have heard people say crazy stuff all the time about all kinds of whatever, all kinds of stuff. Oops. I'll leave the dirty dishes in the picture. Get together, short bus buddy. Hey, what's up, Earthy Star? Appreciate you, Ari. Yeah, it's whatever, guys. If you guys are going to get timed out a little bit, I'll put slow mode on sometime or something. We can try that out. I don't know how to do it on my phone. Idiots are blind. Yeah, Brendan, I think you can make the sort of like country hill road grammar argument about the president, but the reality is that from my perspective is like, yeah, if you want to see yourself as a political animal, but you are a dumb one, as it turns out, and and so it's a dumb political animal informed by their dumb political animal grandfather, grandmother, grandbrother, grandsister. Basically, any of the nice things that people had just don't apply to politics. And then so you want to make some sort of religious, almost like a religious personal case that Trump was a good president from this perspective. Okay, well, guess what that's ultimately going to land back to? It's going to land back to the social animal. It's going to land back to the politicians that you need to elect to office. Quite frankly, I don't think that those types of arguments make the cut. Do you believe in God? I'm not. I'm a Buddhist atheist. I believe that there's a small, like the very modern idea. So sorry. I believe in the very modern idea that there's a minimally absurd God, right? And so we know that there's a beingness that is maybe like transcendent, but of space and time itself, right? You know, if that makes sense, transcendent of space and time itself. And so, yeah. And so I believe that, and so this is sort of like a Buddhist notion that it's like, well, do you not believe that there is a physical power in the universe that acts physically, even if it's just the cosmos itself, right? That's not, it is a faith-based irrational belief. It's also not totally inconsistent with what we know of physics and the level of granularity we describe naturalism, but it's not that right? There's no evidence for that. To me, in terms of like a logical axiom of what God may be like, that's closer, but I'm actually like an atheist. I'm actually like an atheist a little bit. I'm trying too hard, maybe. Yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing instead. If you guys have suggestions, let me know. It doesn't matter who, the system will always screw its people over. Yeah. Yeah, civilizations that collapse down, but those are never, if you guys want to argue with a rich guy, as civilizations expand and grow and the poor get poorer and it pushes its sort of garbage down on the weakest people, those with the least amount of power, those things themselves are never without benefits or descriptions, Fox News, and this isn't very empathetic, but if people come with a baseless argument, why couldn't I say something like, well, even the poorest people in the United States, like Milton Friedman might say this, even if you're poor in the United States, you can still get off work and go buy a premium steak and bottle of wine at the grocery store. And actually, even for a lot of people on minimum wage, that's something you could do once a week, right? There's a lot of people that, if you're not raising a family, you can afford to go eat a meal. And so people say, well, hey, that's sort of absurd. That's ironic. There's people with private jets and there's excess and abundance. And then I can't pay my bills. I get stressed out and I get to eat a steak. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, you didn't think in the first place that you're killing another being there. So maybe try again. Try that argument again. You're killing an animal and you're complaining to me while you're doing it. Don't kill the animal then. Do you know how simple that is? Buy rice. Buy rice and tell me if your life is better or worse then. Same for the rich folks. You guys go through 6 divorces and 6 prenups or something. Okay, I would believe that that is a pretty bad thing to go through. At the same time, I would say, yeah, whatever. Is Trump all right? Okay, feller. No way Jose is winning at 59%. 59% of you guys. So it seems the tides are turning. Trump's not that all right of a feller, folks. What do you mean by doing the D's? Doing the D's does? Yeah, I mean, if people don't want to, yeah, there is a reason why I think I look the way I do. I've mentioned this other places, people that have gone through 15 years of physical and sexual addictions and have come out the other side. It's no longer satisfactory to be an honest person, right? It's no longer satisfactory to be an honest person. Sometimes you wake up and yeah, there's no escape. There's no escaping from myself. And I find that having meatloaf and tomato paste in my beard is one of the respites, one of the forms of escape that I have. Yeah, holding on to my vape and stuff like this. Being able to roll around my massive muscles for YouTube and stuff like that. They're not that massive, but they used to be pretty strong prior to the drugs and the sex, of course. Are you the same guy who was on Muslim Lantern stream? Yeah, I've been on Muslim Lantern stream twice. Yeah, he's a very nice guy. I don't know that we are social media compatible, but yeah, he wouldn't defend the Shahada. He said I did a good enough job as a non-Muslim defending the starting position of the Shahada. That's what I learned on a Dawa stream, so that's what I was presenting, and he said I did a good enough job, so I won the debate. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not like that. I'm not really like that in real life or on the internet. But yeah, I was on Muslim Lantern. Cool guy. Obviously, very grateful. Very grateful for, he's got a massive audience. And so if I can add a little value to a couple people when I go on stream, I like doing that stuff. Do I rap? I don't rap. I wish I knew how to rap. Yeah. My grandpa was in the Air Force and the fake CIA. And so he wasn't really, but and so those kind of like crew cut type guys, they don't really rap that often. Most often they spend their time doing other stuff. So whatever. Neighbor Intelligence. Was he a rapper? Ooh, he wasn't a rapper. Da 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 da. He wasn't a rapper, but he was a cartographer. He was a mapper, even when he was sitting on the crapper. Have you seen his latest AI photo? It's downright blasphemy. If MAGA were actually religious, all the signs point that he's the Antichrist. They wear the mask, mark of the beast, MAGA, in their forehead. Hey, Hugh, 1888. Yeah, Donald Trump's social media account is incredibly racist and unhinged. Yeah. And so just the impression people get on social media is that, yeah, I mean, it's not only really abusive, to people, but it promotes violence, right? So it's actually a tool of murder. And yeah, I like having fun on stream. I like absurd comedy, but my patience or tolerance for Donald Trump ran out prior to him taking office, because he was already threatening violence and people elected him. So, so it's better to laugh. Eat. Hey, Ari, it's okay. If you want to let people stay for a little bit, I'm not that concerned. If the stream ends up getting reported or something, that's okay. But yeah, I think it's okay. Thank you. You've done a really awesome job kind of keeping space for people who want to chat and keeping it conversation oriented. But I actually don't care about I think maybe because it's 53 minutes in, so maybe one idea that I can try or something like that is we'll do 30 minutes of actual politics, chatting stuff. And then maybe after that, we can open it up for the 18 or 21 plus style content and stuff like that too, whatever. Who knows? It could be anything. Maybe you should let to cope harder then. Hey, I'm not trying to cope on anything, to be honest. If I'm a vegan and I truthfully made the choice as an adult, I made the choice to be vegetarian as a young adult too, and I went back to it. Yeah, it's super cool. And yeah, whatever. And so I'm not trying to cope anything. Why do you keep sniffing though? I don't know. What am I supposed to do instead? All right, so come to me. Come hither, children. Should I start telling fun lies on social media or something? Or should I What should I start buying alcohol and I can drink on stream? Or what, right? That's within TOS, is I can drink booze on stream. I'm 21. I'll just mark it's not for kids. I'll say 21 plus in the description, and I'll get drunk on stream. How about that? While I'm in the middle of my favorite times that I've ever gotten drunk and partied and stuff like that, I'll just come on stream and I'll do that, right? I don't care. Like, whatever. What else am I, do you guys want me to go buy like the old Hitman games or something and I can start gaming on stream? I can go play GTAs. Just be me. I like that idea. That's good advice. Who am I? And I've been standing at the edge of the water long as I can remember, never really knowing why. And I wish I could be the perfect daughter. No. Get a router and some wood. Hell yeah, you want to come over and have a Dremel party? We can make something. You want to have a Dremel party, brother? Let me spec it out for you, cuh. You cooking, dog? You cooking something, dog? Make some crafts? Yeah, let's do some crafts then. Are we starting to craft pretty soon? All right. I would abide by crafting, This is one of the things, if you guys have ever gone to Michael's or Home Depot or Lowe's with like a $200 budget, you can get so freaking ripped in the head and it's not even funny, dude. It's insane, bro. All you got to do is like, okay, so here's what I'm going to actually go do. Not literally, but here's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to do these like considerations about my audience and like really lay it down thick for, a bro. Yeah, I subscribe now to a Pokemon streamer. She's got a cool channel. That's a cool stream, right? She's got a cool audience. They talk about all kinds of stuff, and she does pack openings. And honestly, the content's good and fun. She's buying a bunch of stuff to open on YouTube. That's cool. And what are my other channels that I do atheist debates and stuff? Those are cool, I guess. People just hanging out. I don't like a lot of the aggressive debating channels. Someone invited me to the Orthodox Muslim. They said I should join for an open panel, right? Really casual invite, but that's cool. He's got like 100K on YouTube, it looked like. And so who knows, maybe I'll go debate him and get my butt kicked around a bit. Here in my car. All right. All right. Hey, Ari, I went ahead and took the mod off. No offense. But yeah, I just don't need as much modding happening. It was fun. It was a lot of fun to do this stream and stuff like that too. But yeah, I think you did a great job. But yeah, it's just YouTube at this point in time. And so I'm not trying to have as many people timed out and stuff. Yeah. Interesting, bro. Don't have a zillion mods. Yeah. It was fun. Knuckle touch though, right? Knuckle touch. GG's. GG's, homies. GG's, homies. Yeah, I like these banned message. All they talk about are balls though. See? But do you see how this works? If you had refreshed your message, no one would have seen it. And I went ahead and tapped it and it came through. Yeah, I think for a channel of 1,000 subscribers, I can press slow mode. YouTube kind of set this feature up. They set up standard moderators for large channels. And so while people are typing, like, obviously it's none of your business. if you're part of chat, it's not really my business either, because I'm not like popular or cool or anything like that, but just how it goes. Have like 2-3 top, and that wants your channel to grow, and don't base their own headlines on your channel. Yeah. I feel like you are disrespecting the entire LGBT. How so? Yeah, I feel like that is a if you want to extrapolate on it, that's cool, but that feels like a poorly thought out opinion. In my own opinion, yeah, in my own opinion, I used to actually work for the Human Rights Campaign, and so I'm not like a great civil rights activist or something, but I woke up and went to work with like a mission or a purpose, and didn't try to just punch the clock like some people did. Tried to take away from it, So, yeah. If you want me to do the count my black friends thing, I had a gay roommate. So, yeah, I was a civil rights leader in that time. It's 2008. You couldn't flip on your Xbox Live and not hear the F slur. And there I was. Truly. Some would say Malcolm, Martin Luther King Jr., Nathan. I've heard that list before. I've heard my name on it. What is a civil rights campaign? Well, the human rights campaign is the largest LGBTQIA plus activist group. And yeah, it's very, very much liberalism. Like, they've campaigned for things like economic rights, non-discrimination, and things like housing and employment. Yeah, and they tag it. They were big voices and lobbyists, right? It's a lobbying group. So 501c4, I believe. Lobbying group. I believe they had a hand in Don't Ask, Don't Tell and stuff like that. Yeah. And what was it? There was the Equal Rights Act or something. I forgot what it was called, but yeah, I believe that they were working on the Hill for those types of things. Cool. Hey, welcome. Welcome to you. Yeah, you're jumping in the middle of an interesting stream, and so thanks. Welcome to be here. Generation X. Guess what? Talk. Hello. Yeah, tell me the Yankees. Tell me the Yankees. Okay, cool. We got some positive support for the LGBTQIA, maybe a political or social identity, whatever. Congratulations, good job. Thank you so much. Now spread out, everybody. Welcome to the politics stream. Welcome to Ducks Y. Welcome to Ducks Y, everyone. They asked me what a civil rights campaign was, not a human rights campaign. Oh, a civil rights, yeah. Well, yeah, who knows? The human rights campaign is sort of a misnomer, right? You're signifying an organization. So it's the human rights campaign. It's particular, so there's one of them. And then a civil rights campaign, if there's such a thing, I would think like, prior to the Voting Act in 1965, where they said, yeah, you can't discriminate the vote based on skin color, based on racial group. Like, there were politicians and lobbyists, and yeah. Another civil rights campaign was women's suffrage. I was reading about that one just the other day. And so they had to get 36 different states to ratify. So I would imagine there was a concerted effort to get people bought into a change in the political process. So political process changing would be a civil rights, that's part of a civil rights movement, or a civil rights campaign is a good word for you as well. Hey, what's going on, Crypt Blue? 973, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Howdy. Hell yeah. You said that you lead civil rights campaign, but you don't know what it is. Nope. That is uh what I, so yeah. So when I was in college, uh I worked I worked for uh, a 501c4 called the Human Rights Campaign, is what I said. And so, if you want me to say I worked for a civil rights campaign at that time, I could, but I was doing fundraising. I was a fundraiser at that time. So I wouldn't say I worked on the joke that I sat alongside Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. was a joke. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't mind that type of compliment. Ain't gonna become the thing too much, I reckon, but I appreciate the kind words. Okay. Yeah. I think for the most part, I'm happy to answer questions, and maybe we can leave it there. I would just reckon I'd be honest to tell you that there's a miscommunication issue happening here. Partially based on my experience, I would reckon. And I would imagine it would go the same way if I was asking you all about smoking caterpillars or hookahs. I reckon I'd also be having an issue. Hey, what's up, Derek River? You look exactly like LA Knight from WWE. That's awesome, dude. I went through a period of watching a ton of wrestling when I was younger. Then I stopped watching wrestling and kind of didn't like it. I didn't like it because it was fake in whatever. And now it sounds like I have, for some reason, I should go watch that stuff again. I worked with this guy in Canada. I'm in Arizona, by the way. I'm not Canadian, but he was he listened to all the podcasts and stuff on wrestling. He was super into that stuff. Very cool. What about chasing dragons? I don't know that much about chasing dragons, to be honest. I just like ducks. That's a good question. I do love like History, Discovery Channel, those types of things, Travel Channel. I think those are there's a lot of really fun shows. They do a great job really getting people out there and all kinds of stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen like Pawn Stars. Pawn Stars is fun to watch for me. I enjoy that show quite a bit. Kind of get a little something out of each episode or whatever. But yeah, in Arizona, we've got duck migrations, and I just like ducks, and I did debates and stuff. So you can see, if you guys notice my profile image, if you guys want to subscribe and like the stream, by the way, that's also appreciated. Support the channel if you enjoy the content and want to join for another one. If not, absolutely, thanks for being here, and hopefully you guys are all having a great time. But yeah, what was I saying? I was saying something really important. Yeah, if you notice my profile image, it's a duck that's debating. Hey, what's up? We got Young Sierra in chat saying, please tell you what, brother. I don't know what I'm supposed to be telling you. What's going on? Joe Biden's still in the club. They put him in the closet. Hell no, Joe Biden was out front. He was so high up, they couldn't get him down. Donald Trump is leading about right here, and he's not doing a very good job of it either. That's my opinion of it. Joe Biden 2028. Yeah, Joe Biden was certainly my president. I would say Donald Trump is my president because he's in the White House, but I didn't vote for him. I don't agree with any of his policies. I don't think they can be considered, so he's that kind of my president. What planet do you live on? I am in Phoenix, Arizona. So more specific than you asked, though, but a little more specific, not that big of a deal, but a little more specific or whatever. Jack Bob, what's up? What's up, Jack Bob? Do the carpets match the rut row? What's up, Young Sierra 2702? They could. Yeah, I don't find that question offensive in the least, to be totally honest. I got here, I'll show you my sexy secretary glasses. All right, guys, we got YBN Young Sierra 2702 YNFN bop 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 bop. They're saying, "Hey, do the carpets match the drapes? What it do with the 808s? Big X to plug going down." What's up, guys? My name is Duck. Welcome to Duck's Why. I'm a politics channel. Reckon I am. Carpets. Yeah. Just for me, like, I just don't understand the point of that question if I don't know somebody. That's the honest truth of it. I could imagine people that for whatever reason people want to have more intimacy in a sort of surface level way for fun or whatever, I guess. I don't know. Cool. You know? So somebody says like, "Oh, hey Duck, you love your hats. These are your running hats. Let me slap all over your giant running hats or something." To that, I would be like, "Well, okay, very odd, but okay. Sure, happy to do that too. But, I'm going to look a little funny while I'm saying stuff like that, given the neurodivergence and all, but I could do it. I could give it a go. It's not that funny, right? Anyone can do that. What are you laughing about? What are you laughing about, honestly? Right? So that's like a joke I would tell with someone that I was familiar with or something, I guess. Doesn't really make me feel that good. It's an insecurity. Joe Biden is dead in the water. Hey, what's up, Young Sierra? Yeah, and so in terms of just like, I don't shave or do that much with my beard because my hair splits, right? And so in terms of, a safe way to go for me, I think I used to use a little mineral oil. All right, shout out to my Bahama folks. Shout out to the Bahamas. Just a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit for right now, right? A little take home with me. So shout out to my Bahamas folks. And yeah, and so I used to use a little mineral oil generally and stuff like that. And that was all for me, right? So because it made me feel better about having a facial hair, not really having the wherewithal to shave every day. When my beard was really long, my beard used to be a lot longer. I did have some like confidence issues and stuff like that. So, whatever. But it's weird because you're either busy or depressed. For me, when I don't look good, it's because I'm busy or because I'm depressed. And people can't tell the difference always. And like, but they notice, right? They notice it still. So yeah, that's just a little too forward, Young Sierra. I don't know. That's a little too forward is what I would say. I don't know if I'm asking that right, but yeah, in reality, here's the weird thing. Here's the weird thing too, is that like I think in terms of like human relationships and intimacy or how intimate we are with our appearance or something, our animal selves, like that sort of underlying nature, to me always gets a little more longer and more complex. And then we see an appearance, and I don't mean to be too deep or Hegelian or like non-scientific, but it's just my impression of things. And so, yeah. And so if I'm going to ask questions, like hopefully everyone's chatting through this or dipping off the stream, but whatever, if somebody needed to hear that, that's hopefully helpful to hear that surface level questions don't actually help you. If you needed a why, they don't actually help you explore things. So if you're running something like a customer service function one day, or you're looking to get to a management function, that's just the reality of how it works. Yeah, cool. Poison fish. That's pretty cool. All right. Yeah. As it turns out, I'm not an animal. I'm not a puffer fish. Puffer doos. Ain't my business. I ain't an ocean dweller. Reckon I'd be kind of folk to take care of the ocean. Kind folk take care of all the people in the ocean as well. And I would. Stop trying to be a savior. Thank you. I'm just trying to get monetized, guys. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to talk to y'all. Trying to talk to all y'all. Oh. Management function. Are you saying kiss ass? Hell yeah, brother. Let me put on my sexy secretary glasses again. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Okay. That's one of the problems, I think, with like red pill, right? And no offense, because people here are being cool going with the conversation and stuff. And so to me, that's like a very maturity sign, litmus test, and all this other stuff. But like in the red pill space, people talk about, a whip in the BBL and, asking if she bounces on it and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, whatever. So you guys want to be that type of guy that's going to ask the most disgusting questions, the most beautiful women, because that's just how Sigma and Alpha you are, right? How Sigma and Alpha you are, right? Right, dog. And so like I think part of going with the conversation to a little bit is like, well, if you guys were looking for some kind of mystic truth and you actually overestimated how nice you were to begin with, right? You did. It's like, well, that is not alpha red pill stuff, right? That is not alpha male. That is not how a male conducts themselves in reality. You actually were a bit crazier than you thought you were, And so you get these, that's the crazy part is you get these 28-year-olds that don't know anything teaching men about relationships because somebody's paying them to talk about relationships. And so they can steer it off it or say, well, it's actually a lot more than that, or it's about culture and stuff too. It's about politics and society and my beliefs and opinions and philosophy. And it's like, well, no, because remember, does he bounce on it? Does he bounce on it? Does he got a BBL that bounces on it? You were not that nice to begin with, right? So what are you actually talking about? You're talking about a bunch of bullshit, right? That's not how I conduct myself, right? And guess what? There are absolutely alpha sigma males who actually throw down once per year, once every 2 years, right? Welcome to just what life is like. Not everybody is just constantly having like 8 beautiful women on like some beauty panel and then getting all these seeds of wisdom, right? This is the crazy part, and I'm not trying to put myself out there, but if you were to set me up with like a real slut for like 20 minutes, she and I would get through 10 times more than the manosphere would. And we could just get a coffee and do it, right? That's the bullshit about it, is that like people that actually care and are compassionate and try to find significance or importance or meaning would absolutely like it's just like, well, you weren't in the right room to begin with. And so congratulations, if you wanted to be part of the culture, you're selling like Boost, Adidas Boost sneakers or something now. Good job. Beta Coffee, are you an expert or something? No, because I don't know you. I don't speak for you or anything. But if me and another person were saying, yeah, well, commentate, this is like an appropriate boundary, even if you're like a 45-year-old male or female divorcee or something, and you're trying to be more sexually and intimately explorative or something. So what's the actual boundary, or, what is it like in the age of the internet? Like, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I'm saying like I'm interested enough in like that type of conversation. And I'm also interested for the fact that like, look, there's dads and stuff out there that are worried about who it is that, you played video games and that's how you learned how to marry my daughter one day or something, right? Or marry my son. You played video games in order to learn how to be in a human relationship. And it's like, cool. Like, that's an injustice, but it's still not going to long-term help or be an excuse. And it, there might be some like baggage because the internet's not set up to make you successful. All kinds of nonsense, to be completely truthful. It's exhausting. He went to the Roy D. Hollander. I don't know who that fella is. That's one of the ones I need to know. You're just spewing garbage in my ears. Yeah, probably. Bruh, 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 bruh. This is the other thing. Yeah, this is why I think people should be compassionate, because if you work at an NGO or a nonprofit or something like that, and you're actually caring and compassionate, even when you don't have the same energy level, the same emotions as when you were younger, you would still, in theory, have you'd still in theory have at least that, right? It's not like a sign that you should be successful or will be successful in a relationship, right? It's not like a tarot card reading, but I think people that haven't had that exposure to other people and stories, and a little more depth with it, right? A little more depth with society and culture too, right? It's like, okay, cool. Well, there are people, there's men and women and folks all over the country, right? There's people of all different identities looking to find love, or wondering if they'll find love, or hoping they will, or whatever they want their relationships to be. It's not my business at all, but still, it's very weird to think. What is really weird is thinking of a bunch of non-empathetic people running around, not appreciating that they lack empathy entirely, and engaging in sexual relationships, right? Like, it is very weird to think of the ethical implications of people who truly shouldn't be getting after it. And then it's on the opposite side of it. On the opposite side of that, it's also it's a little concerning to think that, well, people are asking for support and just not trusting a little bit their compassion, right? Without having set up any boundaries and stuff. Hey, what up, Landy? So you're finna be racist and not acknowledge me, bet? I don't know what that means. Something, bro. I want to read what you said. Let me go read channel activity. Let me go see this. You make no sense. Uneducated. Fuck Trump. Okay, cool. Yeah, so the Strait of Hormuz is being shut down right now. So F Trump, sure, cool. I disagree with Trump as well. But yeah, Donald Trump wants to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, which I don't totally understand. I think there's probably conversations about the future shipping and liberal markets and just mutual success and stuff like that. But whatever. Charlie Kirk told you empathy was bad. Yeah, Charlie Kirk had surface level emotions about himself. Charlie Kirk had surface level emotions about himself and his goals. He was an absolute pushover. He did anything YouTube told him to, and he logged in. He lived a consequential life as well, influenced a lot of people. But yeah, I'm not a Charlie Kirk fan. I had very little knowledge of Turning Point. Anytime I saw Charlie Kirk, I watched it for about 20 seconds because I actually know things, and thought to myself, wow, this guy sure is a fucking idiot. Seems like he's trying to be as dumb as he is. Reckon the feller's got something wrong in his head. That's how I honestly felt about Charlie Kirk's intellectual and practical contribution to politics. And yeah, I eulogized Charlie Kirk after he got shot. I cried when I found out that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and when I got the alert that he died. And yeah, and Charlie Kirk lived a consequential life. He had a lot of people who depended on him and loved him. And yeah, in the political contexts, we deserved the right to watch Turning Point fail because we were competing with Charlie and destroying it, right? Destroying that organization from the ground up. In no grounds, in no scenario ever, and especially in Charlie's life, never was there grounds for political violence. But mean people and rude people show up all the time. Look at MAGA. MAGA told me that MAGA and Charlie Kirk agreed that a Mexican couple with an autistic daughter who both worked full time, hadn't gotten back to finding a lawyer yet, should be locked up. And their 19-year-old daughter who's naturalized, her and her little autistic sister can go in the world alone. Welcome to the United States. How nice. How nice is that story? Right? And it turns out the laws of the land, the law of the books, does care about those people. Charlie Kirk says you should be in a mega detention center. That's what he said. Charlie Kirk wanted you to know that you build a super prison for that person and deprive them of their lawyer. That is what the DHS has been doing. And then saying that we don't investigate to see how the system is working when there are many cases that are like this. That's an absurdity. And guess what? There's not a way to intellectualize a broken law enforcement system and a corrupt executive branch. Unequipped administrators. Donald Trump is still standing behind this ICE program even after Kristi Noem resigns. Right? Tom Homan shows up, looks like he is on a bender for press conferences for months, and Trump defends this. After citizens are gunned down on video in the streets, Donald Trump defends this. This is what Charlie Kirk wanted to do. Duck, you're a commie. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You are glued and the French fries. French fries, feller. Hey, you got to wiggle it a little bit there, feller. No offense. Charlie Kirk was a nasty racist, homophobe, anti-Semite who preached white Christian nationalism. Are you kidding me? Charlie Kirk was what? This is James saying this. Charlie Kirk was a nasty, racist, homophobe, anti-Semite who preached white Christian nationalism. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So Charlie Kirk was a disgusting, perverted, racialized, conspiratorial, anti-gay, anti-trans, anti-Jew bigot who preached a hate-based, violent, fulfilled ideology, and also believed that there is a magic period of time sometime in the future when a magic person would come down from heaven, and this justified this level of stupidity. So what did Charlie Kirk actually want? He wanted to be popular for being a hateful person because it was more efficient and easier for him. He was a lazy piece of shit. And that's what I said. First time I saw Charlie Kirk, watched him for about 20 minutes, I said, wow, this is one lazy piece of shit. You know, maybe you could go to the Navy SEAL camp and see how far you'd get. You know, funny guy looking up like this, like wind would blow him over. Charlie lived a consequential life. Nothing justifies political violence. Politically, Charlie Kirk was a lazy, dumb piece of shit. Rare. It's rare. He was 1 in a billion kind of cum stain type of fella. A bigot? Tracy, a bigot? What? He's not a bigot. That's crazy. No, you go be the bigot because of Charlie Kirk. That's right. I don't do it. Yeah, that Mandela fella sure did spend... Yeah, Charlie Kirk should have been in jail for treason. Charlie Kirk sent people he knew were storing weapons and communication systems to go take over the Capitol on January 6th. He transported them there. So he should have been in prison for life for treason, right? That's treason, isn't it? Conspiracy to commit treason and treason. You did both of them, fella. There's text messages about taking over and stopping some fake, right? Again, you believe in meth demons. I don't know what else to say. You believe in something akin to meth demons are coming at some point in time. And then you also believe that these same meth demons or different meth demons were acting with people in the world in order to elect Democrats is what the meth demons were doing. That's very crazy. Do you know who any Democrats are? Do you know who Ro Khanna is? Guess what Ro Khanna did? Ro Khanna bought champagne and jerked off with billionaires. He still does, reckon? Right? You don't really need to have a Satan explainer for this guy. Fellow's probably perfectly fine to play golf with, probably perfectly fine to do some hard work with too. I reckon he's not much more than that though. Regular feller. Trump committed treason. Yeah, Trump is a turncoat. Trump isn't a patriot. Trump is absolutely a turncoat. Trump cares about Donald Trump. He's a piece of shit. He's a murderer. Put the crack pipe down. That doesn't hit. There's no context there, buddy. Meth demons didn't even exist until Biden's woke scientists started claiming what? Yeah. I mean, I think a fallout, I think seeing that there is a lot of progress being made in scientific institutions right now, very interesting research in basically every branch of physics and materials science, all kinds of stuff, right? But seeing it has been very clumsy, maybe not that surprising, seeing science go to social media. I think people not seeing that a college degree is worth it or wanting a better system of public education, they want some college credits paid for by the government. One of my buddies had a cool program that you could just sign up for classes and they just got paid for when you finished, and it wasn't crazy, but yeah, you'd maybe get an associate's degree in three and a half years or something would be about right. And then you can decide, 2.5 years, whatever, 2 or 3 years, and you could decide if you want to go finish your bachelor's or something, right? That seems like a pretty good deal. How many genders are there? I saw Dr. Dave talking. He said that there's, more than 2 phenotypes, and I knew that was true. So not just XXXY, there's many phenotypes. But yeah, a normativity is that, yeah, you can just say XX and XY or male, female, and that's normativity. And so if you say it's normativity, it just means you're not describing anything outside of that. If that's what you're comfortable with, that's a better or more accurate way to say that. Hell yeah, brother. Yeah, I'm sorry if you're angry, then I'm sorry about that. There's 3 genders, male, female, and everything else. There's just a whole different. Cool. Yeah, fine. Say that. All right, go find something different to debate about, I guess. A definition of a staircase. I don't know what that is. Like an Escher staircase or something like that. What? You're a trans man. I'm not transgender. Yeah, I'm not transgender. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are uneducated as heck. Is this Andrew Wilson's chat sneaking over or something? This is Crucible Crew. Crucible Crew 2.0, folks. Hell yeah. Crucible Crew. Crucible goes progressive, and they all switch over to Duck's Y channel. Am I based in Canada? No, I'm not in Canada. It's like an elongated vertical set of flat planes in which one can go walk up to reach an elevated position. Yeah, so yeah. Orthogonality or something like this. It would be like this or something like this. Is that the definition of a staircase? I don't know, maybe. I don't know if that was something else, but supposed to be, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I eat a vegan diet. That goes back to the same below the surface conversation we'd already talked about, I believe. Yeah. And in reality, vegan diets keep you a little younger, a little healthier, I think. Your actual biological age stays young. Walking is really good. So definitely to all you guys, I recommend, people that if you can walk around your block for 5 minutes, before or after a meal. Or if people are trying like IF, I think that's a good thing people can do in their life, especially grown-ups, I think can be recommended. You know, the healthy framing, I think, is if you've never had issues with food or something like that, you're just trying to think what works for dieting or something like extending the time period between meals without going to extremes, right? So you're not unable to sleep, like, so it's disrupting your life, your work, relationships. But yeah, if you can go for a walk and skip a meal and then still go crash out on the bed afterwards or something, like walk, do 5 push-ups, right? Just be mindful, do a little bit of that exercise. I think it's really good stuff for people to go do. When I stopped doing like anabolic workouts, not bulking, but I would go and deadlift 400 pounds every day. I would go do the 1,000-pound, like nothing crazy, but like 800 with 1,000-pound leg presses and shit like that, where it's like, oh, I got to stretch. I'm feeling this hurting a little bit. And so I would do a couple heavy lifts every day. And so when I stopped doing that, right, those full body movements, being able to get that full body engagement a little bit, not going overboard, being honest that it's not really full body, but it is getting some weight out. It is it's aspiring to something a little bigger than ourselves. I started walking a bunch, right? I would jog a mile or two and then walk for 30 minutes. That kind of stuff's really healthy, I think. In my own personal experience and opinion, not a doctor, but I don't think there's medical literature that like deeply disagrees with what I'm saying. Cool. Hey, what's up, Ashley Weston? Seriously, do you need help? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what we're talking about. I'm educated because I said LeBron is a GOAT. Cool. Do you like Impossible chicken nuggets? Yeah, I love Impossible food. Impossible food is my favorite type of food. Impossible food is my favorite because I like it. It tastes good while I'm eating it. And then afterwards and throughout my day, it doesn't really weigh me down that much, right? It's almost as if I forget that I ate Impossible nuggets that day. So that's how a lot of stuff I think in 2026 should work, is like that type of food is really good. Like some of the best, no offense, but how long have you been on live? I've come back like 5 hours later. I shut the last one down. Good to see you again, Q Johnson. Just hanging out a little bit. We got some of the folks, the family in chat. Fam. Hello, everyone. Hey, what up, Ube Loftbrook? Good to see you. Yeah, so I shut the last live down. We didn't start the fire. It's always been burning since the world been turning. We didn't start the fire. You guys want to see my stream, my sexy stream glasses? Sexy stream. My name Duck. I come to stream. I come for the most famous stream on earth. I come as Duck for the most famous stream on earth. I return from America. Welcome. Let me show you, my friend. Let me show you on my frickin' stream. Let me show you my frickin' stream here. All right, you guys want to see my stream? You guys want to see my famous stream? Welcome to America, buddy. This way you go to New York City and you just got to lay down, sit down on the bus there and say, welcome to my stream. Welcome to my stream. Pa. And you go to New York City and all the fashion shops are open on a Sunday. Nobody going to church. Nobody telling you what to do. My name is Duck. Welcome to my stream. Thank you, Rec Games. I appreciate it. Yeah. Shout out YouTube. Shout out data servers. Shout out all that stuff. Shout out my German microphone. Shout out any of the German folks in chat. Thank you. No offense. Like, subscribe, all this other stuff. I don't know how to say I'm German, but I think it's like this. Trump for king. Trump for king. I'm a German guy. Went to America and come back. Welcome to German America. Welcome to my stream. You guys ever go to Burger King at 2 a.m. in Times Square? Welcome to my stream. Welcome to America Strim. Go get barbecue and DFW. Yeah. SBYB. Washington, PA. All right. Welcome to my Strim, folks. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to make fun of folks. German engineering, heck yeah. I'm a big old Siemens fan over here. You gonna find that Emmanuel Macron. You gonna find. Reckon y'all get Keir Starmer. Reckon y'all go get Anthony Albanese knocking on my door asking me what I like. I'll tell you, you ever been to Germany, sir? I'll say, well, I do reckon. My boy back in Louisiana. Tell me all about this Siemens Corporation from Germany. Oh, yeah. And you ask, hey, Duck, what does Siemens do? And I'll say, hey, glad you asked. Siemens GmbH actually is a multinational, multi-divisional conglomerate, many different companies and divisions building all types of hardware and software products that basically power the entire power grid. They power all the utilities. They power manufacturing. They power commercial buildings. So you know what I love? I love Germany. Suddenly, I'm not like Donald Trump. I do love this Siemens company, and boy, do I the fuck love Germany, you know? So Vladimir Putin comes to me and says, hey, Duck, what do you love? And I'll say, look, I probably love lots of stuff, and I can probably read in a report too, but right now, Mr. President, and if you call me Mr. President, that's kind of cool too, but I'd say, right now, Mr. President, I do love Siemens. Reckon I love a lot of stuff, but I love Siemens most, right? Regarding the presidential titles and all. I love Siemens, and that's it. I mean, it's kind of a soft ask, and thereabouts. We don't got to go anywhere else much further, much ado. How I say it is I love Siemens, and that's about it, sir. And if you call me sir as well, I would certainly find a level of respect in that as well. Respectfully. Yeah, and then this is what I'd say. I'd say, okay, and I don't mean to do, I have autism, sir. Mr. Putin, and the autistic babble's coming out, so I'm going to go out and say it is I love sick spy shit, sir. Reckon you might as well. Given your former KGB, Mr. President Putin, I'd say, Mr. Putin, given my fascination for Siemens and fascination for sick spy shit, I'm fixing to do some cool spy shit just in the pipeline, just for fun, just for shits and giggles. Reckon that's not how we do things all the time, every day, but reckon I'd be a part of that if I could, sir. So given the presidential titles and all this other stuff, the appreciation is just this small Siemens thing. And hey, who knows? We got tangibility now. Don't really care for the German people that much, but that company they got sure do love it. Can't get enough of it. Love them guys. Yeah. Hey, and it's already securitized. Nobody's really thinking about too much. Ain't that simple? Wow. That's called an equal sum opportunity there. Yeah, I mean, I think in the US context, Siemens is chasing like AI automation and stuff a little bit, robotics automation and stuff a little bit. Very cool company, really cool company. Yeah, and I like obviously big companies are really good at things like timing. This is the big difference is you'll find genius people doing startup projects like Sam Altman, like OpenAI. And they just started it too early, right? I tried starting a biotech too early, and it didn't go well. I had a friend who tried starting a retail company, didn't go that well, right? Wasn't horrible, didn't go that well though. And so big companies like Siemens, they're able to take a big problem and they're able to just kind of put it down there softly, like soft and crunchy, right at the right time. A lot of times, some of those things take off. They do well, they produce a lot of value, a lot of interesting, valuable stuff happens there, but yeah, probably. Reckon I am. Too early is as bad as too late. Yeah, could be. Yeah, everything's got to be perfect. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's very true just in terms that you're the same exact company. Like if your gross profit margin is going to be different by 20%, you might as well have just done something else, right? If a 60 or 80% gross profit margin company, or that's what it's kind of like, is like, you miss it by that much, like you're going to go do something else. But the other case, the other sort of mindset is like if you're Google or something, like there's lots of periods of time where Google's algorithms or stuff were probably too early or too late, but they say, well, the big change for web indexing and advertising is still going to be, it's still going to be another 20 years out. So we don't really have the option to sit it out. We can try and learn and do better next time and store that knowledge somewhere in the business. And so, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, but it's not everything. We didn't start the fire. You love semen. Yeah. I'm just trying to get the channel monetized, bro. Trying to make some money off this bitch. You guys see how depressed I am? We didn't start the fire. When you say things like monetized, YouTube sends you audience or something. Sham. No, welcome to Ducks Y. My name's Nader Nathan. I'm an aspiring strummer. Thank you. Hey, appreciate the kind words of encouragement. Thank you, cattle fodder in the audience. I appreciate you. We got J Money in the chat. So shout out J Money 86. You guys see J Money 86 in the chat? What up, bro? What up, dude? J Money and I debate all the time on we talk on all these types of like panel and atheist shows and stuff like this. And so, yeah. So he's a cool guy, man. Get that roulette up. Hell no, guess what? Good to see you again. Guess what? Stay up? Maybe for a little while. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, guys. Hold on. One of the things that bugs me about the talent, all the talent you see on YouTube is, there's never space for the little guy, right? Have you guys actually thought about that? Because I meet people all the time. Everybody's got that one barista where you get coffee from them, and you take a sip of the coffee and you're like, this is pretty good. Then you look back over at the cash register and you're just like, oh, holy shit. And you just sort of think to yourself like, wow, that was a seamless transaction. This person was incredibly friendly. I felt absolutely nothing. Paying them. Felt happy to get my coffee too. And so YouTube doesn't really have this yet, right? You go to YouTube and your favorite streamers will be like, oh, welcome to the stream, everybody. Satan, hail them, inhale this chat audience, everybody. And then they're going back to their games and they're like, I picked up a loot box. I'm going to go around this tree here. I got I think I'm going to equip the AK, it's the AK-74, and I just got to, hail Satan, kick them out of the chat. And so by and large, this is my great dispute, is because you wonder where the little guy fits in this. And I reckon I've seen a lot of talent, but I don't see people, necessarily with the levels of nastiness or precision that some on YouTube have come to expect. Yeah, real problem there. And then there I am, right? That's always the big problem, is there I find myself having to fit in or describe myself someplace in this topology. So I do goofy stuff, right? I can say I got my sexy secretary glasses, but I sure don't know how to throw a clipboard. Other things regarding my sexy secretary glasses that I'm just trying to learn about myself. I don't look that great in heels. Boy, do I try. Other things, I'm just a little self-conscious, as it turns out. You guys wouldn't guess it with my big head and all. But when the sexy secretary glasses come off and it's just Duck, me, myself, and I think to myself, well, hey, maybe I could try a gaming stream. It doesn't really ever go that well. I sometimes think to myself, maybe I could put myself out there on debate or religious topics. I'm not that great of an arguer, not really that into religion or anything like that. And so, you know, maybe it's called passion, right? This is what makes social media so great. All the big content creators are just passionate these days, folks. Passionate enough, you throw a clipboard at somebody, you know? Yeah, get back in the goddamn bench and start sipping on that water bottle until you figure out how to strim work. Yeah, I reckon that's one way to do it. Go about it that way. Folk like me, maybe not. Who knows? I don't know, up dog. What's up, dog? Hell yeah, Age of Empires game. Yeah, I used to get the Shelby Cobras in that one. That was a good time. Do you guys remember that Age of Empires game? You could look up hacks on the internet, and one of the hacks that you would look up would find a Shelby Cobra. So that was pretty cool. You'd be running around shooting like the musketeer balls at all these guys, but at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Fun game. You need a green screen. The filter's choppy. All right, I'll turn the filter off. All right, let me just go back to my. Let me go back to me, myself, and I. Sorry about that. Yeah. And so I did love playing games back in the day. I had this old little PC. I don't know if you guys remember this one. But yeah, when I was in college, before college, I was really young at this time, but I was finding like these Celeron chips. The early like version 1 Celerons were the first 1 gigahertz processors. And this was crazy because this was when maybe having a little bit of RAM, a little bit of that memory, as well as a little bit of the sort of just the processing power basically let you download games. So people would spend money on a 20 gig hard drive, stuff that's not impressive now. But this is what would get your computer ready for gaming. And so I had games like Doom on floppy disk. I had games like, what was it called? Like Delta Force Operators, I think is what it was. And yeah. And this is by and large, this was how I, this is how I would just start doing gaming stuff, And so this is the funny part is, everybody thinks social media is push to start, but it actually takes time. Everything takes a little bit of time, It's like, cool, that's not that. Yeah, oops, I don't know what happened. I think the stream crashed out for a little while, but I don't know what it was. Yeah, so really the majesty of it all on social media is figuring out what you want to do, what's desirable, and then when to do it, how to do it, right? I don't think there's like any bad sign to comedy or something else, Maybe there's a bit too magicalisms and stuff like that in there, but it's also a good reason to give pause and sort of give praise thanks to goodness. Isn't that something? All right, so I'm going to crash out. Have a good night, everyone. Take care. Oh, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me if I talk? Yo, though, apparently the audio's working, so apparently we back. Yeah, if you guys can hear me, I don't know why my video's not working, but if you guys want to do like Epstein, Charlie Kirk stuff, I'll debate you guys, read comments, and just kind of taking it easy, chilling, I guess, a little bit. I don't know. We had a bunch of people here earlier, not like too many, but whatever. I was just going to talk about Iran all night. At the beginning of the night, I think a lot of us were looking at Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth sort of out of the picture. It seems like, Trump's talking about the U.S. Navy. Where's Hegseth all of a sudden? I'm not trying to sound ominous or anything like that, but, kind of the guy that we thought was leading the U.S. military in the Iran war has seemed to be taking a back seat in one of the most pivotal moments. This is a time where Donald Trump himself said that it was really important that the U.S. step up and take commanding control in Iran. This is also while the White House as a whole is doubling back on these claims that the goal of the Iran war was to prevent a nuclear state. It was to prevent a nuclear state. And what's actually happening now? Well, what's actually happening is, who knows? Who actually knows? I felt that when we had bombed the Natanz nuclear facility, we had by and large sort of uncovered this opportunity to, we had uncovered an opportunity for diplomacy. Reason being is that apparently once you finish your military objectives, you would presume people talk. But this is also after Donald Trump assassinated the head of a state. I don't think people in the United States should take that lightly. I think MAGA voters, especially, if you support MAGA, let me know in chat. MAGA voters did say that Donald Trump himself was justified in assassinating the Ayatollah in Iran. I didn't know the Ayatollah as a person just in the US. I generally understand what an Ayatollah is. I generally understand the draw of Islam as well. Neither of those two things, neither of those conversations have to do with assassinating a head of state. And so Donald Trump basically takes this position that not only is he allowed to assassinate this maybe a brutal, dictatorial, controlling old man in the Ayatollah, no less justified. It's still murder. It's still murder. But then he's also allowed to lie to the American people and ask for your tax dollars in order to fund the next stages of this delusional war, this delusional campaign. So I, for one, don't think that that's really appropriate. If I had my laurels about it, we should have leaders in the military that are capable of standing up and saying, well, this is actually an illegal war. The Constitution doesn't grant the president this much authority, this much operating latitude without congressional approval. Not only should we have leaders in the military who are able to and willing to stand up and oppose Donald Trump, but we should have transparency. When it's the case that the president is conducting what appears to be an illegal war on the taxpayers' dollars and hiding behind it, hiding the actual true costs in terms of lives, in terms of humanitarian concerns, in terms of how this actually will impact the United States over the next 20 years, and in the middle of this, you fire every single top general that was appointed by Joe Biden. Now, you may disagree with Biden as a president, but we've always had a pretty strong historical separation of the military and the office of the presidency. Congress has always been able to call to committee, call to, these congressional sessions, have people testify. If you don't know what's going on with the military and you're concerned about it, you should put it in front of the American people. Donald Trump didn't even begin to consider thinking like that. What Donald Trump actually did or didn't do or tried to do was focus in on this message that this is national security about nuclear weapons. Big, tall, crunchy, stupid, ignorant, who knows, a very quiet chat. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. If you guys want to leave a comment, happy to read it. But there we go. We've got Donald Trump leaving these big, dumb, stupid, crunchy statements about a nuclear program that doesn't actually exist. It's pretty harsh if you ask me. It's pretty bad. It's pretty ignorant. And apparently people want to talk about the base level, Maslow hierarchy of needs instead. It's very funny to me. You initially start with this Tea Party movement that wants to include rural America more closely in the politics of Washington. And then how do you do that? Well, how do you do that is you basically, according to Donald Trump, ship it right back to New York City. You ship it right back to the big, giant, massive countries, massive conglomerates. You pick winners in the marketplace. You get these piecemeal solutions while driving up prices, driving up home prices. And really, at the end of the day, you're not actually talking about political issues which impact both white-collar and blue-collar workers. It's very absurd. You put these extreme demands on people like Governor Gavin Newsom. You put these extreme demands even on someone I disagree with strongly, like Greg Abbott in Texas. So what do? Well, at some point you have to give up. At some point it's just not worth it anymore. I don't know. What I've said is I'm willing to lay down in front of a train if it's capable of stopping Donald Trump. And so apparently that is the conversation that we're having.